Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome back to the Daily Southampton part of the Global Sports Podcast Network. My name is Greg Elliott, and as always today joined by my good friend and wonderful co-host, Zach Ingo Finch. How you doing, mate? You alright?
Yeah, good, mate. Looking forward to today's topic. Not that I've had a lot of time to think much about it today. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to getting straight into it, mate.
That's it. Look, we are building up swiftly to the 25-26 championship season, and I've given Zach a break, and what I've done is I've gone and dug deep. I have been on all of the fan bulletin boards, I've been on Twitter, I have been on all the blogs, I have had a look into all of our opposition for the upcoming season. And what I have done is gone through and tried to summarise 23 teams' seasons and what we can expect from them in like a really small, short, segmented sentence. So, what could go wrong?
I'm sure it'll be fine, mate.
That's it. So look, I've got this written down alphabetically, so that's how I'm going to go.
Sense. Yeah, that's fair.
So, kicking it off with Birmingham City, who, as we all know, have been promoted from League One, coming up with some big money and big investment. I don't think they're going to be pushing for promotion with their investment, to be honest, but they should be looking to bed themselves pretty comfortably in the Championship this year.
Yeah, because like the first season they were taken over, wasn't that was then they got relegated, right? That was when Tom Brady hired Wayne Rooney and they got rid of their manager that was doing really, really well, and that they've hopefully learned from that experience. But it does kind of seem like the way they're being spoken about and the way they're being treated is akin to Wrexham, as if like they fought from the bottom up, whereas like, no, this is the same ownership group that sunk them. It's like nobody's ever spoken about Sports Republic like that, and arguably we were in that position. So it's really weird that
the same ownership group, and let's be clear, literally broke records for how much money they spent on players whilst in League One. Like, the first team to ever spend more than £1 million on a player at that level.
I've noticed, like, you know, some of the transfer rumours that they've got knocking around are kind of crazy, looking for a striker from Ajax and bits and pieces. So I guess we'll see. They want to become well established in the Championship, which I think that's a decent enough goal, right?
Yeah, that's it. And look, I'm not going to get too much into like prediction territory because we're going to cover that in depth tomorrow. But yeah, there or thereabouts. Blackburn Rovers next, who finished 7th last year. You know, it's they had a bit of a tumultuous summer, is what I'm taking on board from all of the reading I've done. They're in the middle of a bit of a turnover. It was a bit of a surprise to them to get that high, and they might struggle to get as high as that this season in what's likely to be a competitive championship with lots of teams pushing for the playoffs, to be honest.
It's always the way, right? Like, people miss out on playoff spots and people do sort of really well and have that push on, and then players and managers get poached and it kind of sinks them back down to the bottom. It's almost the same as in the Premier League, right? But I've always had a little bit of an affinity. I had a manager of mine at Game back in the day called Darren, who, despite living in Portsmouth in Fratton, was a fan of Blackburn Rovers. That made my life a lot easier.
I think the lesser of two evils, right? So,
and also, I remember Sam Gallagher went there, so that's the only other real association I have with Blackburn Rovers, or I can think of. Probably going to get loads of abuse for that, but there we are.
Well, that's it. Look, we're flying straight through it. We've got lots to cover and not a huge amount of time to cover it today. Bristol City up next, who pushed into the playoffs last season before getting absolutely pummeled by Sheffield United, it's fair to say, which was unfortunate, but there was a 22-point difference between those two teams in the league, which just goes to show how nonsense the league was last season, right? Those three teams were so far clear. And as we know, Sheffield United didn't manage to go up regardless of that. They're facing uncertainty whether they're going to be able to push that hard again. It does come off the back of two previous sets of improvements in the Championship. So I believe it was 10th, 8th, and then 6th last season. But with such a competitive league, the expectations of the fan base are that they're probably not going to be up in the playoffs, but should be high in the mid-table.
They missed out on their manager, Sir Liam Manning, he was one of the ones I did a profile on because he may have joined us. He went on to join Norwich City, so it's another case of overperforming at a club, struggling with not quite getting to where they want to be. Somebody else going, if he had more resources, maybe he'd do better. So again, it's just adding to the unpredictability of where the Championship might be, in my opinion. But
Indeed.
I feel bad for them, but hopefully they still have an all right season.
That's it. Next up on the list, Charlton Athletic. As we all know, Nathan Jones got them promoted in the playoffs last season. It was a bit of a surprise for them to be flying quite that high at that point in their project, which probably means they'll struggle this year, is the general consensus. Obviously, aiming for survival, but bookies put them smack bang favourites to go down. So, second favourites behind a team we'll get onto later on.
Well, this is the thing, right? Sure, it's worked out for Nathan Jones there. We'll see if it works out in the Championship. And I just can't bring myself to, I know that you've got a lot more affinity with Charlton than me, mate. Your dad played for him, but also for me, it's just sort of just not a fan of Nathan Jones. Never was, never will be. So I guess we'll move on swiftly on.
Moving swiftly on, yeah. Coventry City next up on the list, who finished 5th last season. Frank Lampard, of course, in charge there. They flew into the playoffs last season, and honestly, they've made quite a lot of signings. They're looking to push on to be in those promotion spots, probably trying to get automatic promotion, whether that's feasible.
This is the thing, it's how many teams are trying to do that. We may be firm favourites to be potentially top or whatever, but I think that it's going to be a tougher test than we think it is.
Absolutely. Next up on the list, carrying on, Derby County, who finished 19th last season. They have made a few signings this summer. They're looking to improve, but the fan forums I've been reading are, I think it's safe to say, sceptical. Many of them would consider 15th a huge win for the season. So that probably tells you everything you need to know about that. But they
shout out to one of our network bosses, Nick, who is a Derby County fan and has been involved in the club and is just happy with us, mate, for keeping them relevant by not beating their points record.
Yeah, mate, whatever floats the boat, we were happy to not have that record. So, And then next up, Hull City, who finished 21st last season. Now, I remember watching the game. They narrowly missed out on relegation on literally the last day of the season, in what realistically was a disastrous season for a team that many people were thinking would probably be kicking on for playoffs.
They sacked Liam Rosenior the season before, right? Another one of our managerial targets for absolutely insane reasons. And then
because he didn't make the playoffs and they finished 7th. They missed out by 2 points.
Reaped the sort of benefits of making insane decisions.
Yeah, look, if you follow HITC7s on YouTube, he's done a whole series of videos as a Hull supporter about the behind the scenes going on at his club, but I think it's safe to describe it as slightly tumultuous. They're currently under a transfer embargo.
Yeah, I was going to
they're currently under a transfer embargo. They should, with the team they've got, be pushing into a better position than where they finished last season. But honestly, relegation's not off the cards.
Not a boss that has no experience in English football taking over a club that's struggling is always...
What's interesting is the bookies' odds on them doing better are much shorter than other teams in a similar situation. The bookies fancy them to do well as well, but I don't know if I see it. So I guess who knows better, me or the bookies? My bank balance would dictate the bookies generally. That is a third of the way through anyway. So time for a quick break and a message from our partners at Bionique.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bionique the world's most personalised supplements. Bionique provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bionique. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now. Your body.
Okay, and we are back. I'm just going to keep firing through them, Zach. Quickfire is the name of the game, right?
Sure.
Ipswich Town, obviously relegated with us last season. Making moves in the transfer window, it's got to be said. Seem to have made some shrewd signings and a couple of sort of reasonably large, especially for the Championship signings. Ed Sheeran obviously not worried about splashing cash with his investment group. Honestly, I've written down probably going to be our main competition for automatic promotion. Wouldn't be surprised if it's either us or them winning the league.
That's fair.
Yeah, are you feeling the same, or
I guess
also seems to be like
so.
in a better position than at least Leicester, who came down as well, because
they're in a better position than Leicester, and Leicester are probably going to start with a points deduction, right? But if Leicester don't, they've still got a pretty good squad. Ipswich did well, just not well enough. It's whether or not they can carry it on this season. They, like us, have lost some players. Weirdly, they've just appointed Junior Stanislas as a first-team coach who used to play for Bournemouth. That was a really weird article I've seen. But I guess they are. But I feel like you should not underestimate the sleeping dog that is Sheffield United, for the simple fact that just because they missed out doesn't mean that they missed out by a lot. Depends on whether or not Stella's does us a favour.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, that's my point. Is that I'm just kind of like, yes, they are considered to be our main rivals. That's not necessarily how the Championship plays out, though.
100%. That is the beauty of this league. Next up on the list, Leicester, as I say, probably facing a points deduction at the start of the season. Although the appeals seems to be dragging its heels on that. I don't know whether we'll know by the time the season starts or if we'll have to wait till afterwards. But it's going to be interesting either way. I did read an article that there might even be more to follow, which is, upsetting. The amount of clubs in financial hardship at the moment. But
very odd managerial appointment, in my opinion. I understand why they got rid of Van Nistelrooy, but still, I guess they wanted some Championship experience, right? And
also very few incomings so far this summer, and unlikely to be many others.
I wonder why. I think it was Brownhill from Burnley was the only sort of link that I've seen.
So look, honestly, I feel like playoffs might be just their target, especially if they're having a points deduction. I think that might, with how competitive it's going to be, that might already be enough to sort of rule them out of the top.
We talk about how difficult it's been since sort of 2016. Imagine that. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Crazy indeed. But look, we'll see. Look, like I say, not probably still a good enough squad to compete and be up there, but I mean, with the behind the scenes mess, it's hard, isn't it? Right, that makes things much harder.
Yeah, for sure.
Middlesbrough next. Rob Edwards taking over as manager this season after Michael Carrick's disappointment. They finished 10th last season.
Oh, I didn't realise that he'd gone. That's interesting.
Yeah, fans suspect this season could also be a struggle. They are one of these teams that are going to be, they feel like they're going to be stuck right in this mid-table limbo which, is going to start to be the case as it seems to be harder and harder to stay in the Premier League. But they're going to be hoping to maybe push up slightly higher than 10th, but lots of question marks as well, lots of unknowns. Next on the list, Millwall, who they seem, from what I was reading, they finished 8th last season. They seem to be sort of a time of their rebuild where it's all coming together and are probably this year going to be targeting the playoffs after getting pretty close last year. But they do have a new manager who, started the second half of last season where they really sort of built that push. So they've got quite a lot of momentum heading in to the start of this season. So maybe maybe like the dark horse playoff run. Maybe not even so much dark horse, to be honest, but pushing for it for sure. One of the teams that are going to be hoping to be in that fold. So
I won't share my opinions on Millwall next.
Super Millwall, no one likes them. They don't care. It's fine. Next up, Norwich City, who finished 13th last season. They had an unsettled year last year. They'll be looking to get a more solid position and aiming to challenge for the playoffs, supposedly, according to their fan base.
As I said, Manning managed to get Bristol City to the playoffs. I think the idea is that they bring him in. Sargent's still technically there, right? Like, I think he was going to go, but I think that what's happened there. I imagine they're probably still just trying to strengthen a little bit, but they're always one that you can't ever underestimate their ability to somehow get up, even if they do immediately go back down.
And especially with a manager who achieved as much last year as Manning, they are, you'd be a fool to write them off.
Correct.
Next up on the list, Oxford United, who finished 17th last season. Couldn't find a lot about their pre-seasonal preview online, to be honest, but based off of the odds the bookies are giving, they are in for a tough season.
Yeah, they were expected to go back down last season, though, right? Because they were promoted last season, and everyone kind of didn't expect them to stay up, and they did. I'm just trying to remember their current manager, Gary Rowett. Why do I know him? I'm trying to figure out where I remember him being. No idea. I for some reason thought he'd been in charge of other teams that I'd like. I for some reason thought he was in charge of Wolves, but it turns out it was Birmingham, Millwall, Stoke, Derby, Birmingham again, and Burton is his managerial career. So I actually have no idea.
Look, they're probably in for a difficult season, but hoping to sort of stick with it.
I think if they managed to stay up last season, power to them. If they manage it again and start becoming established, even better. Happy days.
Absolutely. Next on the list, Portsmouth, who last season finished 16th. They survived, trying to face this from as neutral of a ground as possible, right? Taking this from an analytical mindset. They survived last season and they have been making movements in the transfer window to try and improve. It's probably too early for them to be thinking about pushing for a promotion place, but they'll be trying to move up the table and sort of solidify themselves in this sort of middle table that might push up. But still lots of unknowns, and frankly, relegation not off the cards. And we'll wait and see. It's an interesting one.
Urgently working on new signings. But I feel like you need to remember, like, the differences of where we are, the differences of where they are, is like they're closing in on a midfielder from Budapest. MTK Budapest, the Hungarian league, whereas we're kind of complaining that we're like, unfortunately, we've got a transfer from the Bundesliga too. But apparently a lot of turmoil over Matt Ritchie's departure. I'm going to be honest with you, Greg. I pay zero attention to them by design. So
that's it, mate.
Hopefully they'll be relegated. They are.
Preston North End next, who finished 20th last season, so narrowly staying up. They're probably going to be fighting for survival again, to be honest. They have, interestingly, signed Thierry Small.
Really?
And have made a couple of other signings. They're hoping to build to make survival not a question mark. And most excitingly, Zach, they are now sponsored by the Spud Bros. So that was honestly the most exciting part of reading about their season. So
it's got to be, it's one of the ones where, between Rotherham and Preston, they get the most accidental flack from me of a stereotypical boring transfer fixture that isn't Stoke, right? So my bad, but there we are.
That's it. All right, last up before we head into another break, QPR, who finished 15th last season. QPR fans are hopeful for a better season this year, pushing on. They've made some exciting signings, and they're trying to push probably to just end up in this sort of mid-table limbo this season, especially where the league is looking to be maybe more competitive than ever, which is crazy when you think about last year. but the bookies still reckon they'll be down around the relegation zone. So maybe the excitement over those signings is just noise. It's going to be hard to see either way, to be honest. Any thoughts on QPR, Zach?
I don't really have a lot. Like I know that obviously they lost their manager and they have a new manager that's come in. I don't really know a huge amount about them. Again, I was really surprised that the Leicester guy, boss, is finishing 15th. Doesn't really strike a huge amount of confidence in you that is going to be the guy that brings you out of promotion. So I very much agree with you that I think Leicester are just trying to steady the ship, but it's got to be frustrating, like it is with any club, right? When if you look at us with Koeman and Pochettino, whenever you have a good manager that kind of appears out of nowhere, or just a manager that's able to, inspire some level of confidence, and then they just get stripped away from you, and feels like that's kind of how QPR are struggling with, or going to have to struggle with the rest of the season. But maybe they'll do all right.
Yes, indeed. Right. Time for a quick break and a message from our partners at Zencaster before we head into the home straight and wrap up. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform, and Zencaster came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that helps remove all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description and learn more about Zencaster. Okay, and we are back. So, firing through rapidly the last on the list. So, next up, the Blades, Sheffield United, finished third. Like I said, 22 points ahead of their opponents in the semi-finals of the playoffs. And then, of course, beaten at Wembley by Sunderland. Look, should be pushing in there or thereabouts again. Ruben Sellers as their manager this season.
Sellers goes to Reading. Reading get demoted into League One. He fights out at League One, gets the job at Hull City, just about keeps them up. Then I can't remember if he was. I think he was let go. I can't remember if he was let go or Sheffield United then come in to get him to replace them. Then since then have lost Kiefer Moore as of today to Wrexham. Brewster I think's gone now as well. So they seem to be losing more players than coming in. It's the reality of if you go back down and miss out on promotion. This is something we might need to deal with next season. Hopefully not, but this is the reality of what happens. Like even they were going for Rob Holding, right? And he's ended up going. Now I'm going to America because again the pull isn't as much. So we'll have to see how they. But again, they could be a bit of a wild card in my opinion.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. One interesting stat that I found, which I'm sure was all over the place at the end of last season, but 10 times Sheffield United have now made it to the playoffs of the Championship, and 10 times they have not gone up through the playoffs.
That isn't, it's not nice, is it?
Horrible. What a horrible statistic. From one end of the table to probably the other, Sheffield Wednesday, who finished 12th last season, but man, what...
Off the show, we discussed this a lot. Like, we honestly, I think we discussed Sheffield Wednesday more than any other club other than Saints, just because of how mad it is. Like, remove the fact that no one really talks about how Morecambe FC are basically null and void at this point. But Sheffield United are an example of what happens when a club high up in that position are, mismanaged regardless. This is the problem with ownership. This is a whole episode on its own. Where do I see them? Probably relegated. Let's face it, they've got 13 outfield players right now, right? Everyone's gone. Even
no expenses to pay for away day games.
£72 for a home shirt from an employee that isn't getting paid. It's just
an entire stand, which by the looks of it is being written off in the home stadium as not usable in any way, shape, or form. It's just
shocking, isn't it? Shocking.
Yeah, it is crazy. You're right. Probably the team that hit our news feeds second most compared to Saints, with all of the craziness that's happening there at the moment. And
especially as all the stuff with Danny Roll. Danny Roll's gone. They now have a guy from Denmark who's only ever done anything in Denmark. Everyone else that's big at their club has gone. People that have been there sort of 20, 30 years. It's upsetting to see, but I don't see him doing well because of it.
No, indeed. It's a shame for Sheffield Wednesday fans for all the owls, but
sure.
that's I guess the name of the game, right? Next on my list, Southampton, who of course finished 20th in the Premier League last season, and the only notes I have here are winning the league. Moving on.
Moving swiftly on.
Stoke City next, who finished 18th last season. They are hoping to improve from that. They've got an exciting striker on loan from Man City, whose name I haven't written down because I didn't want to attempt pronunciation. But the bookies' odds suggest that their fans' hopes of being in that mid-table limbo might be optimistic. They are like 4th or 5th favourite to get relegated. It's going to be a battle of a season for them.
All I know is that we are consistently being linked by fans, mainly, to their goalkeeper, Anderson, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's apparently a really good goalkeeper. I've seen some of his saves, so everyone's just like, we should just buy him. And then loads of other people being like, no, if we're just going to buy a championship quality goalkeeper, we already have Bazunu. So whatever your opinions are on that, or whatever your opinions are, but that is pretty much all I'm aware of about Stoke, mate. I'm not going to lie.
Yep. Next up, Swansea City, who have this summer had investment from Snoop Dogg and Luka Modric.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I forgot Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg bought Swansea City of all.
Yeah.
I'm loving this random American celebrity buys football club and has absolutely no idea, right? Like,
so the last 4 seasons they have finished basically 11th or thereabouts every year. They have been in what can only be described as mid-table limbo, and honestly, I just don't see that changing this season. It's going to be really competitive at the top, and I just don't know if they're in the place that's going to push for it.
I'm just looking forward to them being sponsored by a bunch of CBD oil companies, or that what is it, that smokeless barbecue that Snoop Dogg promoted when he said he was giving up smoke and broke the internet. Why you'd randomly associate that with a Welsh city, sure, but maybe it's because Wrexham is from Wales, and then Snoop Dogg saw Wrexham and then thought, "Can I buy another club in Wales?" Because that is the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah, mate, look, it's gonna. I'm sure that there'll be plenty of entertainment.
There's no real connection anymore. No previous Russell Martin derby or anything like that.
No, that's it. It'll be interesting. Next up on the list, Watford, who finished 14th last season. The note I've got written down is over 4.5 managers this season a safe bet?
Well, they had one for the whole of the last season, right? It's just at the end of the season they got rid of him, and that's the problem. I just feel like it must be insane to work there. Where, like, I've worked as a player. It's like retail, right? High turnover of managers. You turn up to one day, you carry on doing your job. But, like, at this point, do they just have like the Watford tactics board, and the manager just comes in and doesn't do anything with it? Because it must be bizarre to play for a club where every other week you're working for a different boss. And yet somehow, I'm not saying it's worked, but they haven't got relegated from the Championship, and people have done less and got relegated. So
yeah, well, look, the patience, I think, with the owners is low. The pressure is high. Whether that leads to good things and they make a push up, or whether that leads to trouble and push down, I don't know. But this is another team that I think might. I think that, from optics, they'll be saying they want to push on and try and get playoffs. This is another team I see in mid-table limbo.
Yeah, it's one of those things, Greg, where the only thing I've really seen about Watford this year is the fact that they're being forced to have the full colour of their sponsor on their kit because the sponsors pushed it and it looks awful. Yeah, and then I remember texting you about it and you said, "Is it bad? I actually think this looks really nice." Because you're like, "Oh, it's got that kind of like cherry lemonade vibe." I'm like, "Yeah, but then you're also slightly colourblind, mate. So take that with a pinch of salt."
Yeah, that's fair. It's not my own show that I have to contend with, so obviously the opinion, I guess, will change based on that as well. Next on the list, the Baggies, West Bromwich Albion, 9th last season. Ryan Mason taken over as manager.
God, smart,
I believe they've now been successfully taken over and have some money floating about in the club, but not like an unlimited amount of budget. I think that they'll probably also be floating around this mid-table area. I don't see this year as being their year to push on. Maybe if their striker can stay fit, because he's been a bit injury prone, but
I think
maybe they're thereabouts.
It's the worst thing for me, mate, is it just blew my mind that I was like, Ryan Mason is the guy that like got like a skull fracture and had to quit football, right? And the fact that he is actually like 34, a bit older than me, and also managing, and I'm like, oh, that's young for a manager, forgetting that our own manager is younger than us. So I guess ignore that.
One of the articles I read was like, manager this season, Ryan Mason, brackets, age 34, brackets, take a shot every time that's mentioned this season.
Well, I think we've got the youngest manager in the Championship now, but also as somebody that, you know, the Baggies are a bit closer to your home than mine, is in, you know, your family members and stuff. How do you feel about them? Is there positivity coming from your family about it, or?
Yeah, look, there's always cautious optimism, I think, right? If there's one thing that West Brom fans and Saints fans have in common, it's the need to be cautious with their optimism. And I think that you go into the season, they've not had a great pre-season, to be honest. But apparently that's part of the course, and normally they have a rubbish pre-season and then really kick it into gear when the season starts. So, look, I can't wait for that not to happen this year and to witness that as well. Look, it's a blessing and a curse, right?
Yeah.
Right, and finally on the list, of course, Wrexham, promoted from League One last year after back-to-back promotions. Is that enough backs? I think so. Obviously, have spent money. Have they spent that money well? I mean, they've brought in some experience. They've brought in some good players for this level. Will it all gel together? Will the expectations be high? I was watching one interview with a Wrexham fan who was saying a lot of our fans have never experienced Wrexham suffer. So does that like noise and pressure come when it inevitably
it depends,
is harder?
mate. They're looking at coming in for Ericsson. Like they've got Josh Windass, who's part of Sheffield Wednesday. You've got like Liberto Cacci. I think that's how you pronounce it. If not, I know that. And I know that sounds bad. I remember him being like he's New Zealand, I think, and he was a wonder kid on FM. So take it with a pinch of salt. But like, it's not like they're sat on their laurels waiting. I just can't figure out. Like, surely at some point there's going to be some rules about spending with them. I don't know when it's going to catch up, but maybe this season will be the season.
The difference is, right, that they do generate a lot of income through other means, right?
Wow, obviously, yeah, the Netflix deal, my bad. Netflix FC,
the way that they have built their money is, obviously they had rich owners to kick it off, but they've tried to like naturally bolster the club's finances rather than just like the Man City approach, right? So
yeah, like, and that's a good thing. And like, look, I take the mick. We'll see how it is on Saturday. Like they've tried their best to build up a good team for this season. They've had to make some pretty, brutal decisions, especially with Mullen being like, their talisman for so long. Like, good Lord, he even got a bit in Deadpool, right, as Welshpool.
Yeah.
And yet now is on loan to Wigan Athletic and might never come back. J Rod's there, but I think he's out with an injury. So, but yeah, like imagine being.
We learnt last season that misery sells so much better. So
but imagine being right now
viewed Disney Plus series of all time when they get relegated straight back down to League One.
But it's one of these things. It's one of these things for me. That, like, imagine you're we've gone to some non-league games. We go to Eastleigh occasionally. Imagine you're an Eastleigh fan and you blink, and 3 years later you're being like linked with Ericsson. It's like what? It must be weird. But also you go to a game and like an American turns up to watch Eastleigh. Like you get those stories with like National League clubs, right, where people have been playing on Football Manager for 30 years. Some guy flies out from Japan. He's like, yeah, I love Bath City, and everyone's looking around like, what? But like now, this is that to like such an extreme level where people are looking forward to it. And you're gonna have all these travelling fans, and I can't wait for half the travelling fans to just be like people that are fans of Ryan Reynolds that live in Southampton. Like,
can't wait for their main big noise chant on their like biggest away end visit in a long time to just be fight and win.
Mate, I'm looking forward to our preview.
Mate, that is
it. So many more dates on this.
That's it. Look, that is the quickest fire I could manage rundown of the Championship preview through lots of reading and lots of studying.
Appreciate that, mate.
Look, it's going to be an exciting season. It's going to be good. There's lots of teams that are going to be pushing for those promotion places, and that's going to make it tricky.
And there's going to be new teams I learn to hate. That's the best thing about it. There's going to be new teams where I get a grudge against, like how I still have a grudge against Watford for handball. I don't remember why, who it was. I can't even remember what year it was, mate. But I know that deep down, for some reason, I have a made hatred of Watford. And I can't explain it. It's ethereal at this point, and that's the joy of being a football fan. And this year, as a new Championship season kicks off, I can't wait to feel that way about Wrexham. The same way that Newcastle fans feel about us because Ben Brereton Diaz managed to get away with a little something at the beginning of last season. And when we got relegated, they're like, because of that Ben Brereton Diaz, lad, we're glad you're down. Good. It's going to be great. Let's go.
That's it. I'm so ready. Look, we are back tomorrow when we put numbers to it and pick our Championship predictions out in the public for all of the criticism that's going to come our way.
Oh, good.
I'm so excited as we build up closer and closer to the start of the season. The excitement's genuinely building in my body. I cannot wait. I'm going to burst by the weekend, honestly. I'm just absolutely bouncing.
We better win.
Look, like I say, we'll be back tomorrow with those numbers. Zach, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you everyone for listening. What have we missed? Let us know. Any dark horses for the Championship you see coming through this season? Or any shocks you think are going to struggle that might end up unexpectedly in the relegation zone? Let us know on all the socials. We are on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, Blue Sky, all of it. Let us know. How excited are you for the Championship season? I am so ready. We will be back tomorrow. We hope you join us then. Until then, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you then.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.